Well, I went on about a 3-decade search for human potential. Once I had a very profound change in my life in my mid-20s. I had basically been let me start at the start. I had been a very stressed out, fearful child, and I have no idea why. I had a good home and good family, but something inside of me was just always in a state of stress. I developed migraine headaches. I went through a lot of my childhood with severe migraine headaches. I was in and out of doctor's office. I couldn't get any relief for that. I bumbled my way through high school. I went to college because I was told that was the thing that you were supposed to do. So I enrolled in college in the Midwest, and I was academically dismissed with a .57 GPA, kicked out of college, and I started working minimum wage jobs. I stumbled around in my life with no direction and no purpose. And at one point, I was standing at latest job, which was in a steel and aluminum fabrication plant that was family owned. And I was standing in there covered in grease, and just something changed inside of me. A light came in on I felt a surge of power in me. I felt my consciousness change, and I felt this confidence, and I had this clarity. It was like I could see my old life from 50,000 feet. And I saw all of the patterns in it, and I also saw where I was headed. And I didn't know exactly where I was headed, but I knew I was on the way up. And at that moment, just in a flash, everything for me changed, and I knew my life was going to change. And I did immediately leave work that day. And I was just in this empowered state. And I went and I started pursuing what I could do with the rest of my life. And I had previously had a good experience with chiropractic care with healing an injury. And so I had talked to a chiropractor about this and learned a little bit about it, and said, yeah, that's part of my path. And so I jumped onto that. I called the school to find out what I had to do to get into the program. I found out it's a doctoral program, okay? I'm thrown out of my first year of college with a .57 GPA. They say you've got to do all of this undergrad work, and not only do you have to do it, but you have to have a certain GPA to even be able to get into the college if you do it. But I was on fire at that point, and so I found a college that would take me in another city. I moved almost immediately. I enrolled. I started doing my undergrad work. I actually ended up taking 32 credit hours of college a semester, which is more than double the normal load. And I aced all of my classes, and I was just flying through it. And I got a high GPA. I got into the chiropractic college. I went through the 3-year chiropractic college. I went through the 4-year chiropractic college in 3 years on an accelerated program. I graduated on the National Dean's List with honors from the professional school. And I saw at that time chiropractic as one little piece of the puzzle that I had to discover what was it that changed inside of me. And I just started devouring everything I could that had anything to do with personal growth and personal development and consciousness studies. And I just went on this compulsive search to find out, why did this happen to me? And what I found is that throughout history, through thousands of years, that there were cases of people having these profound changes of consciousness and profound changes in their life from a whole variety of different techniques. But the problem is that most of the time it was spontaneous, or they were using some technique, and 1 out of 1,000 of them would have any change. And so I then started to realize, as I started digging deeper, that a missing link, when I started to really understand neuroscience and brain physiology, and realizing that almost none of these traditions, none of the wisdom traditions or yoga philosophies or any of this had access to the understanding we had today about the brain playing a major part in our development and associated with these higher states of consciousness, particularly this higher place of the brain. And a light kind of came on for me at some point that this physiology of the brain was the missing link in so much personal growth and personal development. And so I started seeking out things then that I could learn from different quasi-chiropractic techniques, NSA care, craniosacral therapy, yoga techniques, all of this stuff I started learning pieces of and integrating and synthesizing. And I started doing a lot of research and development on these ancient pathways and this latent energy once I knew that this higher part of the brain had evolved and wasn't getting its energy. And I started just putting this together, and it came from just years of research and development to create this protocol that shifted energy into the higher brain.